going on, Sky Squad? We are back in the building, and we got to talk about the news. I know a lot of y'all know that PHAEDRA and EVA are returning to Housewives, and we're going to get into the thing, okay? All about it. We also have Candace Bassett shutting down Lisa Rinna, okay? We're going to talk about that, and then we also got to talk about the Salt Lake City trailer that debuted yesterday. A lot of information, a lot of things went down yesterday. I was out here living my best life on this good Miami beach, so I was trying to enjoy my vacation while also taking some time to check in and see what the news was. But we're about to dive into it all right now. So just my apologies if my voice is a little bit low. I'm doing this early in the morning so I can, get this news and information out there to people who may not have already seen it. But if you have, great, then join in the chatterization down below so you guys can actually, keep that conversation going. Now, first things first, let's get into Candace and Lisa Rinna, okay? So a couple of weeks ago, I feel like it was that Lisa Rinna posted on her Instagram, I want to do a guest appearance on Potomac. I want to go play with those hardcore bees, okay? So I had seen this before, but I really didn't pay it no mind. You know what I'm saying? Because I just kind of felt like, Lisa Rinna's always posting stuff. And, sometimes I kind of feel like she'd be trolling the people. And so at this point in time, though, it had been reshared by the Jasmine brand. Now, it had been reshared by a couple of other, Instagram blogs and media sites and stuff like that. But this was the first time I saw a real housewife of Potomac actually react to it, okay? And Candace dropped down in the comments on the Jasmine brand, and she says, "Stop in the name of no," respectfully, okay? Now, Candace is always good for a sassy clapback, a sophisticated read, and I just don't know that Lisa Rinna would be equipped to deal with the likes of somebody like a Candace. You know what I'm saying? Because Lisa Rinna, I think, is used to dealing with a more mild-mannered style of housewife, because they don't really get all that about it right now on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Not like they kind of did back in the day when they had Kim Richards on there. But I will say Lisa Rinna is very good for stirring the pot, and she will call out people when necessary. Although she's not doing a lot of calling out this season, but I think we know why, because she's cool with Erica Jane. But anyway, what are your thoughts about that? Would you like to see ever housewives crossing over into different cities? I think that would be very interesting. It kind of like how they do it on Love and Hip Hop. Well, all of the Love and Hip Hops at this point, because I think Safari's been on all of them. But, I think that would be very interesting. But speaking of housewives and speaking of swapping cities and bringing people in and out, we got to talk about this. We have got to talk about Bravo or Peacock, whichever one you want to talk about, because I think it's going to reside on the Peacock network, is bringing back former housewives PHAEDRA Parks, okay, and EVA Marcille, okay? Now that is going to be some interesting TV. Now, yesterday I told you guys that they were going to be doing another Housewives mashup, or Housewives Vacation is what some people are calling it, or as the streets are saying, Housewives All-Stars. But this season will be led by former Real Housewives of New York City cast member Dorinda Medley. Now, we talked about this yesterday, how they were going to be starting in season 2. We didn't know who the cast was, but we knew that they were bringing back somebody, and they were going to be having some unexpected people come back. Now, the interesting thing is rounding out this cast is going to be Dorinda Medley. We're going to have PHAEDRA Parks. We're going to have EVA Marcille. We are going to have Vicki Gunvalson from Real Housewives of Orange County. We're going to have Brandi Glanville from Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. And Brandy is a hot mess. We're going to have Taylor Armstrong, who is also from the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. She's an OG from that show. And I'm going to tell you guys the truth. Looking back on it, I feel like Taylor added a whole lot to that show. Chime down in the chatterization if you guys remember Taylor from the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills back in the heyday of Beverly Hills when it was really good and juicy. I mean, it's gotten back good now, but I think that back when Taylor was on there, Kim Richards was on there, it was a little more raw and real. We also have Jill Zarin coming back from the Real Housewives of New York City. So this should be interesting to me because I think that thinking about it like this, you know, it has widely well known that Vicki Gunvalson has wanted to be back on Housewives, at least from my opinion. You know what I'm saying? I feel like she felt like she was wronged when she was demoted to a friend. I think that Brandy Glanville has definitely been wanting to be back on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. She was doing the absolute most last season to try to get back onto the show, and it amounted to absolutely nothing because they didn't even bring her back in as a friend or even to make a guest appearance on this season. It's difficult to say with PHAEDRA and EVA how they feel about coming back. Obviously, they're excited to do it, but you know, PHAEDRA has kind of, you know, teased and talked about the potential of coming back if it ever felt right. You know, I'm paraphrasing, but we've never really known her true feelings or intentions about coming back. And at times she would just claim disinterest in in coming back at all. And EVA Marcille, given that she just left about a season ago, you know, it's interesting that they're choosing to bring her back, but I don't know. I mean, I kind of feel like the people that they're bringing back are a bit more along the notorious, you know, kind of housewife type person. And I don't get the sense that EVA is that type of housewife yet. I mean, she hasn't made it to that iconic status because I just don't feel like she really provided enough content or that she was around long enough. And then when she was on the show, she was pregnant. So I think it's maybe a little bit hard. And I think she talked about this too, the difficulty of being a pregnant housewife. I mean, she can't drink. It's not like she can just be, you know, really knee deep in the drama because she's carrying a child. So I'm sure that's a bit difficult. And you don't really want to have that type of negative energy around your child, I would assume, when they are in the womb, right? So Brandy, I'm not surprised about. You know, again, she's been wanting to come back. Jill Zarin, I'm not that surprised about either. You know, because Jill has toyed around with this notion of dipping her toe back into Housewives, and I kind of feel like she wants that sort of notoriety again. And with Dorinda, I feel like this is their way of sort of saying, you know what, Dorinda, we want you back in the family. We want to bring you back to Real Housewives of New York next season. Let's kick things off with this new adventure right here, and let's see where it goes from there. I think that this is a brilliant idea. We talked about it again yesterday, bringing back former housewives who have not been on the show for quite some time. And I'm super excited about it because we will finally get our Phaedra Parks back on our screens. Okay, now, with that out of the way, let's talk about Salt Lake City real quick because the trailer for The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City actually dropped yesterday, like in the middle of the day, and then it's the Housewives All-Stars news. It was a lot happening. And let's talk about the trailer. You know, for me, I thought it was juicy. I thought it was gripping. I thought that they hit the highlights of Scandal. You know what I'm saying? We were introduced to a new housewife by the name of Jeannie. She looks like she's gonna be a firecracker, and they definitely needed another firecracker on the off chance, I mean, that they can't work with Jen Shah anymore after this season. You were gonna need another spicy firecracker to come in and do the doggone thing and shake the table. And I feel like they did a good thing by bringing in Jeannie. The next thing that we want to talk about is they really did highlight a lot of the Jen Shah scandal. And really from the perspective of her reaction to it with her family, but also her reaction to news that there was some allegation made throughout the trailer that Meredith had something to do with her indictment, which was very interesting because as you guys may recall, we left off last season with Jen and Meredith not in the best of places. not only because Meredith stood by Mary when Jen and Mary were having their altercation, but also because of things that, Jen had allegedly either liked or tweeted about Meredith's son. And then also, Jen spreading the rumors / truth / half truths about Meredith's marriage before Meredith was actually ready to admit to the group what was going on with her and her husband at the time. So Meredith's lack of distrust with Jen, and then going into this season with the rumors coming out that Meredith allegedly had something to do with it, I can't imagine in my mind what she would have to do with any of that, because at the end of the day, this is something that Jen was allegedly involved in. So how would Meredith have anything to do with a case that they had already been planning to, make for quite some time? I really don't get it, unless they're talking about how they knew where Jen was when it was time to go in and bring her in. You know what I'm saying? So I don't really understand that story, and I think that's going to be very interesting to follow and watch. The next big thing that we were talking about in that trailer that we're seeing is Mary Cosby and her church being an alleged cult. Now, this was something that was talked about last season, and it was kind of on the periphery of what we knew about Mary, because I think most of last year we discussed Mary in relation to the marriage to the person who was once her grandfather, right? We know he's not her grandfather by blood, but he was married to her grandmother. So it's interesting that this is coming up again, because we will also see a scene where Lisa Barlow is meeting with someone who is telling us that Mary is a cult leader, or that the whole operation is a cult. I don't really know, because sometimes cult can be very sometimes I've heard people describe something as being a cult when by definition it is technically not a cult, but it just seems cult-like, okay? And so it does seem as though Mary has a cult-like following, and she does refer to the trailer as having the God in me, or somehow being I am God. I have heard this term used actually more frequently than I think people would actually care to acknowledge. And sometimes I think it can be very confusing for people. It'll be interesting to see how she explains it to the rest of her cast members and to the world, but I would be interested in seeing people's reactions to it, because there are some schools of thought that says, I am God because God lives in me, right? There are some schools of thought that say, there is only one God and we serve that God, right? So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out with different people's beliefs. And I think that's something interesting that Salt Lake does, because I think that they do tiptoe around the idea of belief systems and religion and church and what's right and what's not right. And we sort of see some blurred lines as we get into this franchise specifically. So I'll be interested in seeing how all of this plays out, and I want to know what your thoughts are about it. That's it for this intense discussion about all the topics about Housewives today. My energy is a little bit down, mostly because, again, it's early morning. I'm not trying to scream and shout so my neighbors can be awake and all that good stuff like that. But I did want to have a very deep dive discussion with you guys about, what's going on in the world of Housewives today. And let me know what you guys think about all of these topics. Are you excited about PHAEDRA, EVA, Vicki Gunvalson, Brandi Glanville, all of them coming back? Do you agree with Candace? Stop in the name of no. Lisa Rinna, you do not have any place in Potomac, okay? And also, do you guys, are you excited about Salt Lake City? I am. And the other interesting thing about Salt Lake City is they're putting it on Sunday nights right after Potomac. So it's going to be a double header as we go into fall for Sunday nights. So Sunday nights are going to be very busy, but I will tell you this, I am super excited that they are not putting Salt Lake City Wednesday night time slot at 10 p.m. because honestly, I did it for the encore because I was just like, we got to do what we got to do, right? And to be quite honest with you guys, I was actually watching the show a little bit earlier because Hulu was showing it earlier than the 10 o'clock time slot. But It was definitely difficult to try to watch Salt Lake City at 10 p.m. and make notes and recap it the next day. It was difficult. But anyway, that's all the news that we got for y'all today. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell button, and I will catch you in the next video.